I flew to California without warning, desperate to surprise my daughter, only to find her dying alone in ICU. Her husband, partying on a yacht, oblivious to her pain. Enraged, I froze his accounts in a single call. Within an hour, his world collapsed, but the real consequences were just beginning. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. Horace, what are you doing here? Maud's voice carried across the empty driveway like a slap. Aura's in the hospital. ICU for 5 days. My rental car keys slipped from my fingers, clattering against the concrete. 5 days. The words echoed in my skull while my engineer's mind tried to process impossible data. I'd been calling Aura every other day. Short conversation, sure, but she'd answered. Tuesday, she'd said she was tired from work. Thursday, something about Jesse being busy with clients. Which hospital? The question came out strangled. My mouth felt packed with cotton. Cedars-Sinai, critical condition. Maud stepped closer, her face creased with confusion. I thought you knew. Jesse said everything was under control. The world tilted sideways. I grabbed the car's hood for support, my 70-year-old knees suddenly unreliable. 3 hours ago, I'd been in Miami, packing for what I thought would be a surprise visit to my daughter. The flight attendant had smiled when I mentioned seeing family in California. Now this neighbor stood before me, casual as discussing weather, dropping bombs that shredded my reality. Where's Jesse? My voice sounded foreign, mechanical. Haven't seen him since. Maud squinted, calculating. Monday, maybe Tuesday? But you know how he travels for those real estate deals. I fumbled for my phone with shaking fingers. 17 missed calls to Aura's number over the past hour since landing at LAX, all straight to voicemail. Jesse's phone rang once, twice, then nothing. Dead silence. I tried again. Same result. The Malibu house stared back at me, windows dark, garage empty. Palm trees swayed in the ocean breeze like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. My daughter was dying alone while I'd been watering plants in Florida, completely clueless. 5 days, I repeated, tasting each word like poison. She's been there 5 days. The ambulance came Sunday morning. Sirens woke half the neighborhood. Maud wrapped her sweater tighter. I brought casseroles to the hospital Monday, but the nurses said only immediate family during critical hours. Sunday, I'd called her Saturday evening. She'd sounded tired, mentioned feeling under the weather. I'd suggested she rest, get some soup. Fatherly advice for what I thought was a simple cold. How could I have been so blind? My phone buzzed against my palm. For one desperate second, hope flared. But it was just Southwest Airlines confirming my departure gate from 3 hours ago. I stared at the screen, watching my normal life fade into something unrecognizable. I need to get to the hospital. The words came out flat, emotionless. My engineer's training kicked in. Identify the problem, gather data, formulate solutions. But this wasn't a structural failure I could calculate and fix. This was my daughter, possibly dying, with her husband nowhere to be found. I climbed back into the rental car, hands still trembling. Maud stood in her driveway, watching me with that expression people get around fresh tragedy. Pity mixed with relief that it wasn't happening to them. The GPS display glowed. Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, 47 minutes in current traffic. As I pulled away from the empty house, one thought burned through everything else. Jesse had told Maud everything was under control, while my daughter fought for her life, completely alone. The 15th attempt to reach Jesse went straight to voicemail. I gripped the steering wheel harder, weaving through LA traffic that moved like frozen molasses. Every red light stretched into eternity while my mind calculated terrible possibilities. Aura's in-laws. The thought struck like lightning. Mamie and Ray Ortiz had always been decent people, even if Jesse's relationship with them stayed complicated. I pulled over at a gas station, fingers flying through my contacts until I found their number from last Christmas. Horace? Oh, thank heaven you're here. Mamie's voice carried years of worry. She's at Cedars-Sinai, intensive care. I've been praying every night since Sunday. Why didn't anyone call me? The question erupted louder than intended. A teenager pumping gas nearby glanced over nervously. Jesse said he'd handle everything. Said not to worry you with complications. Her voice dropped to a whisper. But Horace, she's so sick. The doctors use big words I don't understand. Complications. That word again. like my daughter's life was some minor inconvenience to be managed. What about Jesse? Where is he? Static filled the silence. He visits when he can. Business keeps him busy, you know? Always something urgent with those property deals. I thanked Mamie and gunned the engine back toward the freeway. Business, property deals. While Aura lay unconscious, connected to machines, her husband was chasing commissions. My hands ached from gripping the wheel, but the physical pain felt appropriate. Everything should hurt right now. The hospital emerged from the LA sprawl like a gleaming monument to human fragility. I circled the parking garage 3 times before finding a space, my Florida reflexes useless in this concrete maze. Every second counted now. Every minute I'd lost flying blind while my daughter needed me. The elevator climbed past floors of ordinary problems. Broken bones, routine surgeries, normal family crises. My reflection in the polished steel doors looked older than this morning. The past 4 hours had carved new lines around my eyes, added gray to my stubble. I'm looking for Aura Gomez, I told the reception desk. I'm her father. The young clerk typed rapidly, frowning at her screen. Room 4B12, ICU. You'll need to check in with Dr. Chen first. He's expecting you. Dr. Chen looked too young to hold my daughter's life in his hands, but his eyes carried the weight of someone who delivered terrible news before. We walked through corridors that smelled of antiseptic and quiet desperation. Complications from an autoimmune condition, he explained, consulting his tablet. Her system went into crisis Sunday morning. We've stabilized her, but she remains unconscious. Autoimmune? I stopped walking. I never knew she had any autoimmune issues. His eyebrows lifted slightly. According to our records, she's been managing this condition for over 2 years. Lupus, specifically. Did she not discuss this with family? 2 years. My daughter had been fighting a chronic illness for 2 years, and I knew nothing. The hallway walls seemed to press closer. Her husband should have told me. Mr. Gomez signed the initial paperwork Sunday, but we haven't seen him since Monday morning. Dr. Chen's professional mask slipped slightly. Are you prepared to make medical decisions if necessary? The question hit like a physical blow. Medical decisions. Life and death choices. While Jesse was somewhere doing deals, I was about to become responsible for keeping my daughter alive. The ICU room hummed with electronic vigilance. Machines surrounded my daughter like mechanical sentries, their screens painting green and blue patterns across her sleeping face. Tubes and wires connected her to life itself, each beep confirming she was still fighting. I pulled a chair beside her bed and took her hand. Her fingers felt impossibly small, weightless as bird bones. The Aura I remembered was vibrant, always gesturing while she talked, hands constantly moving as she designed graphics or explained her latest project. These still fingers belonged to someone fragile, someone I'd failed to protect. You're the first family member to stay more than an hour, Nancy, the day nurse, mentioned while checking Aura's IV. Her in-laws visited briefly yesterday, brought flowers, sweet people, but they seemed overwhelmed by all this medical equipment. What about her husband? I kept my voice neutral, though rage simmered just beneath the surface. Nancy paused, glancing at Aura's chart. Husband? I've worked this shift since Sunday night, and I haven't seen anyone matching that description. Just you and the older Hispanic couple. The words landed like physical blows. 5 days. Aura had been here 5 days, and Jesse hadn't visited once. Not once. While she fought for her life, completely alone, except for brief visits from his parents. I pulled out my phone, hands steady now with cold fury. Jesse's Instagram loaded slowly, each photo a fresh insult. There he was, 3 hours ago, standing on a yacht deck, champagne glass raised, surrounded by people half his age. Young women in bikinis laughed at something he'd said. The caption read, "Living the dream, Marina del Rey never disappoints. Yacht life. Blessed. Blessed." Posted at 2 p.m. today, while I sat holding his wife's unconscious hand. I scrolled back through more photos. Yesterday, expensive dinner at some trendy restaurant. Monday, golf course selfie with clients. Sunday, the day Aura collapsed, the day ambulances screamed through their neighborhood. Jesse had posted a workout photo from his gym. Crushing Monday, no excuses. Why fitness do one grind? No excuses. While his wife was being rushed to intensive care, he was documenting his bicep routine for social media. The timestamps told the complete story. Sunday morning, around the time Aura would have been collapsing, Jesse was posting about his morning protein shake. Sunday evening, while she lay unconscious in this very room, he'd shared a story about closing a big real estate deal. Nancy returned with fresh medication, chatting quietly while she worked. The patient's been stable since Tuesday. Her body's responding well to treatment, which is encouraging. Sometimes with lupus flares this severe, recovery takes time, but she's young and strong. Young and strong, fighting alone because her husband was too busy playing with yacht toys and Instagram followers. I studied the photos again, memorizing faces, noting locations. Marina del Rey wasn't far from here, maybe 20 minutes in light traffic, 20 minutes between his wife's deathbed and his party boat. I squeezed Aura's hand gently. "I'm here now, sweetheart. Daddy's here." For the first time in decades, my engineering mind turned towards something other than building or fixing. Jesse had made a critical error in his calculations. He'd assumed his wife's illness would remain his private crisis to manage or ignore. He'd forgotten about variables he couldn't control. He'd forgotten about me. Outside the ICU windows, Los Angeles glittered in the evening light. Somewhere out there, Jesse was probably still celebrating whatever deal had been more important than his wife's life. But celebrations end. Eventually, everyone has to come home. And when he did, he discovered that his problem had multiplied exponentially. The abandoned wife now had a father who'd spent 40 years solving complex problems with methodical precision. This would be my most important project yet. The monitors never stopped. Each beat marked another second of my daughter's fight, while her husband celebrated with strangers. I shifted in the uncomfortable plastic chair, phone warm in my palm, as I scrolled through banking apps with methodical precision. 43 years of engineering had taught me that every complex system has vulnerabilities. Marriage, apparently, was no different. When Aura had married Jesse 5 years ago, I'd been generous, perhaps too generous. The trust fund I'd established after Margaret's death was designed to protect our daughter's future. Jesse had access to their joint accounts, their mortgage payments, credit cards, but the real money, the inheritance that would secure Aura's lifetime, that remained under my control. "Stupid old man," I whispered to the antiseptic air. I'd trusted him with my daughter's heart. Worse, I'd trusted him with financial access that made his lifestyle possible. My phone displayed the numbers with crystal clarity. The Malibu house mortgage, $8,400 monthly, automatically deducted from the trust. Jesse's Range Rover lease, $1,200, also trust funded. Their joint credit cards, the ones he'd been using for yacht parties while she lay dying. $15,000 monthly limit, backed by my daughter's inheritance. I pulled up Jesse's real estate business records, flashy website, expensive office lease, but the actual sales commissions were sporadic. He'd closed 2 properties in the past 6 months. His business account showed deposits barely covering his office rent. Everything else, their entire lifestyle, flowed from the trust fund I controlled. The power of attorney document lived in my phone's file folder. Aura had signed it 3 years ago during a routine financial review, back when she trusted her husband to make decisions in her best interest. Back when I'd believed Jesse would protect her the way I'd protected Margaret. I studied my daughter's sleeping face. Tubes and wires couldn't hide her mother's features. The stubborn chin that had gotten her through design school. The artist's hands that now lay motionless on white sheets. She'd inherited Margaret's strength, but also her tendency to hide problems until they became crises. 2 years of lupus. 2 years of managing an autoimmune disease while I'd remained clueless in Florida. She'd protected me from her illness the same way she'd protected me from her marriage problems. Always trying to spare her old father from worry. But Jesse hadn't protected anything. He'd taken her money, ignored her crisis, and posted yacht photos while she fought for consciousness. My engineering mind cataloged the assets systematically. The trust contained $2.3 million from Margaret's life insurance and my retirement investments. Monthly distributions covered all their expenses, plus a generous allowance Jesse spent on toys and status symbols. Without access to those funds, his carefully curated lifestyle would collapse within weeks. The beauty of the system I'd created was its simplicity. One signature from me could freeze every account he touched. One phone call to Willard Thompson, our family attorney, could sever Jesse's financial lifeline completely. Legal, irreversible, and perfectly justified, given his abandonment of fiduciary responsibility. I reached over and took Aura's hand again. Her pulse beat steadily against my thumb, stronger than yesterday according to Nancy's notes. The lupus flare was responding to treatment. She would survive this crisis, but she'd wake up to discover her husband's true priorities. I should have seen it sooner, sweetheart. The words came out rough, barely audible over the machinery. But Daddy's here now, and Daddy's gonna fix everything. Outside the window, Los Angeles glittered with Friday night possibilities. Somewhere out there, Jesse was probably buying another round of drinks for his yacht friends, secure in the knowledge that my daughter's trust fund would cover every expense. He had no idea that his financial security depended entirely on the goodwill of a father-in-law he'd betrayed. That goodwill had just expired. I pulled up Willard's contact information. Business hours started at 9 a.m. In 13 hours, I could begin dismantling the life Jesse had built on my daughter's money. The first phase would be surgical. Cut off his access, freeze the accounts, force him to survive on his actual income instead of my family's generosity. But that was just the beginning. Dawn crept through the ICU windows while I maintained my vigil. Aura's condition had stabilized overnight, her breathing steadier, color slightly improved. Nancy had assured me during her shift change that recovery was progressing well. I dozed fitfully in the chair, waking every hour to check monitors and plan my next moves. At 8:55 a.m., I walked to the corridor for privacy. The hospital bustled with morning activity, but my focus narrowed to the phone in my hand and the number I'd memorized during sleepless hours. Willard Thompson's office, this is Sarah speaking. Sarah, this is Horace Marshall. I need to speak with Willard immediately regarding the Aura Marshall Trust. It's urgent. One moment, please, Mr. Marshall. Willard's voice came through clear and professional. Horace, what's happening? Sarah said this was urgent. My daughter is in intensive care at Cedars-Sinai. Has been for 6 days. Her husband never informed me and hasn't visited her once. I need to exercise my power of attorney to protect her interests immediately. A pause, papers shuffling. I'm pulling up the trust documents now. You have full authority over distributions and account access. What specific actions do you want to authorize? Freeze all accounts accessible to Jesse Gomez, effective immediately. Suspend automatic payments for non-essential expenses. Cancel his authorized user status on all credit facilities. That's a significant action, Horace. Are you certain about the timing? My daughter is fighting for her life alone, while her husband parties on yachts. I'm absolutely certain. Understood. I can implement these changes within the hour using the electronic authorization system. The mortgage and essential utilities will continue, but all discretionary access terminates immediately. Jesse will lose access to joint accounts, credit cards, and monthly allowances. Perfect. Send me confirmation once it's complete. Consider it done. Horace, I'm sorry about Aura. If you need anything else, you'll be the first to know. I ended the call and returned to my daughter's bedside. The morning light revealed improvements in her appearance, less pale, breathing more naturally. The nurses had mentioned she was responding well to the new medication protocol. My presence seemed to help too, though she remained unconscious. I settled back into the chair and took her hand. The first phase is complete, sweetheart. By 10 a.m., Jesse's going to discover what it feels like to live without our family's money. My phone buzzed with Willard's text. All freezes implemented. Jesse Gomez access terminated across all accounts. Non-essential automatic payments suspended. Documentation being prepared for legal review. I checked the time. 9:47 a.m. Jesse's morning routine typically involved expensive coffee and gym sessions, all charged to cards that would now decline. But the real test would come when he tried to fuel up that yacht for another day of celebration. The engineering satisfaction of a well-executed plan settled in my chest. Clean, precise, legally bulletproof. Jesse had spent 5 years taking my daughter's money for granted, assuming his charm and her love guaranteed permanent access to our family's wealth. He was about to learn the difference between privileges and rights. I squeezed Aura's fingers gently. Her eyelids fluttered slightly, the first sign of increased consciousness I'd witnessed. That's it, sweetheart. Come back to us. Daddy's here, and everything's going to be different when you wake up. The monitors continued their steady rhythm while I waited for my son-in-law to discover his new financial reality. Somewhere in Marina del Rey, Jesse was about to experience the first consequence of abandoning my daughter when she needed him most. This was just the beginning. My phone rang at 10:43 a.m. Jesse's name flashed on the screen like a target confirmation. I let it ring 3 times before answering, keeping my voice neutral and tired. "Jesse, I wasn't expecting to hear from you." "Horace, what the heck is happening with the accounts?" His voice carried a sharp edge of panic mixed with embarrassment. "My card got declined at the marina, then the backup card, even the emergency Amex." "Declined? That's concerning. Where are you trying to use them?" "I'm at Marina del Rey, trying to fuel up for a client meeting. But that's not the point. All the cards are dead. The bank says accounts are frozen." "What's going on?" "Client meeting. On a yacht." While his wife lay unconscious, I gripped the phone tighter but kept my tone professionally calm. "I've taken control of the trust accounts, Jesse. All discretionary spending has been suspended pending review." "Suspended? You can't just suspend our money. Aura signed those authorizations years ago." "Aura is unconscious in intensive care at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. She's been there for 6 days, Jesse. 6 days. And this is the first time you've called about anything other than money." Silence stretched across the line. I could hear voices in the background, probably his yacht friends wondering why he couldn't pay for fuel. The public embarrassment would be eating at him, adding humiliation to his financial panic. I've been handling everything. The medical stuff is complicated, and I didn't want to worry you unnecessarily." "Handling everything? By posting yacht party photos while she fights for her life? By never visiting her hospital room? I've spoken with her nurses, Jesse. They've never seen you. That's not... Look, this isn't the time for this conversation. I need access to those accounts immediately. I have obligations." "Your only obligation was to my daughter. You abandoned that obligation. The financial access you've enjoyed for 5 years was based on trust you've completely violated. You can't cut me off. I have expenses, commitments. The office lease alone is $4,000 a month. Then I suggest you focus on your real estate commissions instead of yacht parties. Your actual business income should cover your actual business expenses. Horace, be reasonable. Aura wouldn't want this. When she wakes up, she'll be furious that you've destroyed our financial stability. When she wakes up, she'll discover that her husband spent her darkest hours celebrating with strangers instead of holding her hand. She'll learn that you never even visited her hospital room. Do you think she'll be more upset about frozen credit cards or your complete betrayal? I was protecting her. Medical situations are stressful. I was handling the business side while letting the doctors handle the medical side. You were protecting yourself from responsibility, from emotional difficulty, from anything that might interfere with your social calendar. This is insane. You're destroying everything over some misunderstanding about hospital visits. This isn't a misunderstanding, Jesse. This is consequences. You made choices. You chose yacht parties over your wife's bedside. You chose social media posts over medical support. You chose to keep her illness secret from me while spending her inheritance on entertainment. I need those accounts restored immediately, or there will be serious problems. The only serious problem is your complete failure as a husband. The accounts remain frozen until further notice. Horace, I'm warning you. I ended the call. The ICU room felt peaceful compared to Jesse's panic. Aura's monitors showed continued improvement, and Nancy had mentioned the possibility of consciousness returning within days. I set the phone aside and took my daughter's hand again. Your husband just learned what it feels like to be powerless, sweetheart. He's probably standing at a fuel dock, explaining to his friends why he can't pay for basic services. The same way you've been lying here, powerless, while he partied. Outside, Los Angeles continued its relentless pace. But in Marina del Rey, Jesse's carefully constructed lifestyle was beginning to collapse. His credit cards were useless plastic. His monthly allowance had evaporated. His access to the trust fund that had supported his entire adult life was gone. This was just the first consequence. By evening, he'd discover the scope of his new reality. And tomorrow, the real education would begin. The next morning brought social media carnage. I scrolled through Jesse's Instagram while holding Aura's hand, watching his digital world collapse in real time. 3 of his yacht buddies had posted videos from yesterday's marina incident, their phones capturing his humiliation as payment after payment got declined. Awkward moment when someone can't afford the lifestyle they're flashing, read the caption under Brandon Chen's story. The video showed Jesse frantically trying different cards at the fuel dock, while a growing line of boats waited behind him. My phone buzzed. Jesse again. The 23rd call since yesterday morning. I let it ring through to voicemail and returned to my surveillance. His former friends were turning his embarrassment into entertainment. Sarah Martinez had shared a screenshot of Jesse's Venmo requests, captioned with laughing emojis. When someone who posts yacht photos asked to borrow gas money. The text messages had evolved throughout the night. Early morning brought angry demands. This is ridiculous. You're destroying everything over nothing. By noon, they'd shifted to confused pleading. Please just call me back. We need to discuss this rationally. Evening descended into desperation. I'm begging you. I have obligations. People are counting on me. I opened his latest voicemail. Jesse's voice cracked with exhaustion. Horace, I know you're angry, but this has gone too far. I can't even buy coffee this morning. My business partners think I'm having a breakdown. Please, for Aura's sake, we need to talk. For Aura's sake. I glanced at my daughter's peaceful face, color gradually returning after 3 days of intensive care. Her monitors showed steady improvement. Dr. Chen had mentioned the possibility of consciousness returning within days. Nancy appeared with fresh medication, chatting while she worked. Your daughter's response has been remarkable. Having family present makes such a difference. I've seen patients recover faster when they know someone's fighting for them. Someone fighting for them, unlike Jesse, who'd fought for nothing except his next party invitation. I returned to my phone. Marcus Webb, Jesse's former golf partner, had posted a subtle but cutting update. Amazing how quickly people show their true colors when money gets tight. Real friendship isn't about who pays for drinks. The post had 17 likes, including several mutual friends from Jesse's social circle. The domino effect was beautiful to watch. 5 years of carefully cultivated relationships, built on generosity funded by my daughter's inheritance, crumbling within 48 hours. These people had never liked Jesse for himself. They'd tolerated his arrogance because he consistently picked up expensive tabs at trendy restaurants, chartered boats for weekend parties, and always had connections to exclusive events. Without the trust fund supporting his largesse, Jesse became just another middle-aged real estate agent with modest commissions and expensive tastes. His social media posts had stopped entirely after the marina incident. The silence spoke volumes. My phone rang again, different number this time. I answered on the 4th ring. Mr. Marshall, this is Detective Torres with LAPD Financial Crimes. We've received some concerning reports about potential fraud related to your family's accounts. Ice formed in my chest. What kind of reports? Your son-in-law filed a complaint alleging financial elder abuse. Claims you've illegally seized assets belonging to him and his wife. We need to schedule an interview to discuss the situation. Jesse's counterattack. Predictable, desperate, and ultimately futile. Detective, I have complete legal authority over those accounts through my daughter's power of attorney. She's currently unconscious in ICU at Cedars-Sinai, has been for a week. Her husband abandoned her medical care to party on yachts. I understand this is emotional, sir, but we have to investigate all reports of financial irregularities. Can you come to the station tomorrow morning? Bring documentation of your legal authority. Of course. 10 a.m. work for you? After hanging up, I studied Aura's sleeping face. Jesse was escalating, using official channels to pressure me into restoring his access. But he'd made a critical error. Police investigations require evidence, documentation, and credible testimony. I had mountains of legal proof. He had yacht party photos posted while his wife fought for her life. The afternoon brought more social media documentation. Jessica Park, one of Jesse's regular party companions, posted a photo from last night's restaurant dinner. Jesse wasn't in the picture, but the caption told the story. Amazing Italian food with the crew. Some people just can't hang anymore when times get tough. 26 people liked that post. Jesse wasn't one of them. I left the hospital for the first time in 4 days Tuesday morning, kissing Aura's forehead and promising the nursing staff I'd return by afternoon. Her vital signs had stabilized enough to risk a brief absence, and my meeting with the IRS couldn't wait any longer. The taxi driver navigated through morning traffic while I reviewed the documentation I'd compiled over months of financial oversight. Jesse's tax returns contained creative interpretations of business expenses that had troubled my engineering sensibilities. Yacht rentals classified as client entertainment, expensive watches listed as business necessities, restaurant bills totaling thousands monthly, all deducted as professional meetings. Robert Martinez, the tax inspector, looked younger than my son-in-law, but possessed the sharp focus of someone who'd seen every financial deception imaginable. His office smelled of coffee and bureaucratic efficiency. Mr. Marshall, you mentioned irregularities in tax filings related to family trust distributions. I spread the documents across his desk with methodical precision. My son-in-law has been claiming business deductions for personal expenses funded by my daughter's inheritance. Here's documentation showing yacht parties, luxury purchases, and entertainment expenses that were never legitimate business activities. Martinez examined the papers with professional thoroughness. Bank statements showed trust fund transfers immediately followed by charges at marinas, jewelry stores, and high-end restaurants. Jesse's business account barely covered office rent, yet his tax returns claimed tens of thousands in business deductions. These discrepancies are substantial, Martinez concluded. Misclassifying personal expenses as business deductions constitutes tax fraud. We'll need to conduct a full audit of Mr. Gomez's returns for the past 3 years. How quickly can that begin? Investigation opens today. He'll receive notification by certified mail within 48 hours. We'll need access to all business accounts and documentation. Given the amounts involved, this could result in criminal charges if fraud is confirmed. Perfect. Jesse would discover his tax problems just as his social world finished collapsing. The engineering beauty of systematic pressure applied at multiple points simultaneously. I returned to the hospital by 2 p.m., settling back into the familiar chair beside Aura's bed. Her color looked even better, and the nurses mentioned increased brain activity on the monitors. Recovery was accelerating. My phone showed 37 missed calls from Jesse's number, which I'd blocked that morning. The voicemails would be accumulating, probably documenting his progression from anger through panic to complete breakdown. But I had more important things to focus on than Jesse's emotional deterioration. Dr. Chen stopped by during afternoon rounds. Your daughter's improvement has been remarkable. We're seeing increased responsiveness to stimuli. If this continues, she could regain consciousness within days. Aura, stirring awake to find her father holding vigil while her husband remained absent, would complete Jesse's humiliation perfectly. She'd understand immediately who had protected her during her darkest hours and who had prioritized yacht parties over her survival. At 4 p.m., I unblocked Jesse's number briefly to check his accumulated messages. The progression was exactly as predicted. Message 12, the police visited my office today asking about our finances. This has gone too far. Message 18, my accountant called about an IRS investigation. You're destroying my business over a misunderstanding. Message 23, I'm losing everything because you won't answer your phone. Please, for the love of everything, just talk to me. For the love of everything. Jesse's desperation was becoming poetic. I blocked his number again and returned attention to my daughter. Her eyelids fluttered slightly when I spoke her name. The machines registered increased neural activity. She was fighting her way back to consciousness, probably sensing her father's protective presence. Soon she'd wake up and learn exactly who had abandoned her when she needed them most. The confrontation arrived Wednesday afternoon in the form of Jesse bursting through ICU doors with a lawyer in tow. I'd been expecting this escalation since the police detective's call, but seeing Jesse's face, unshaven, desperate, aged years in just 4 days, still provided deep satisfaction. There he is, Jesse announced loudly enough to disturb other families. The man who's destroying our lives while my wife fights for hers. Hospital security appeared within seconds, alerted by the disturbance. Marcus Webb, Jesse's attorney, looked uncomfortable in the sterile medical environment, clearly preferring conference rooms to confrontations beside dying patients. Mr. Marshall, Webb began formally, I represent Jesse Gomez regarding the illegal seizure of marital assets. My client demands immediate restoration of account access. I remained seated, holding Aura's hand, projecting calm authority. Your client abandoned his wife for a week while she nearly died. I used my legal power of attorney to protect her interests. Nothing illegal occurred. That power of attorney was signed years ago, under different circumstances, Jesse interjected, voice cracking with strain. Aura never intended for you to cut off our entire financial life. Aura never intended for her husband to prioritize yacht parties over her medical crisis either. Yet, here we are. Webb pulled out a folder of documents. We have grounds to challenge that power of attorney. Marriage creates legal obligations that supersede parental authority. Mr. Gomez has rights to marital property that can't be simply frozen by family members. I'd prepared for this exact argument. Willard Thompson, our family attorney, will be here shortly with complete documentation. The power of attorney was signed when Aura was mentally competent, specifically to protect her interests during medical emergencies. Her husband's absence during said emergency validates every action I've taken. Dr. Chen appeared, drawn by the commotion. Is there a problem? This is intensive care. We need to maintain a calm environment for our patients. Jesse turned to him desperately. Doctor, this man has illegally seized control of my wife's finances while she's unconscious. Surely you can confirm her husband's rights to make medical decisions? Actually, Dr. Chen replied diplomatically, Mr. Marshall has been here continuously since Friday evening. He's made all necessary medical decisions and maintained constant vigil. Are you the patient's husband? I don't recall seeing you during visiting hours. The question hit Jesse like a physical blow. Marcus Webb stepped forward quickly. My client has been handling the business side of this crisis, managing finances and arrangements while the medical team handled treatment. By posting yacht party photos on social media, I asked quietly. Instagram timestamps showed Jesse celebrating at Marina del Rey while his wife was fighting for consciousness. 23 posts of parties and entertainment during her worst medical crisis. Webb's expression shifted as he realized his client had been caught in multiple lies. Jesse's face flushed crimson, but desperation drove him to continue the charade. Those were business events. Client entertainment is part of real estate work. I was maintaining our income while dealing with this medical emergency. Interesting, I replied. The IRS is currently investigating whether those yacht parties and entertainment expenses constitute legitimate business deductions or tax fraud. They seem particularly interested in your claim of $40,000 in annual client entertainment costs, while your actual business income barely covers office rent. The blood drained from Jesse's face. Webb looked between his client and me, clearly realizing his position had become untenable. Mr. Marshall? Webb said carefully. Perhaps we can discuss this privately, find some reasonable compromise that serves everyone's interests. The only interest I'm serving is my daughter's. Her husband forfeited any claim to reasonableness when he chose yacht parties over her bedside vigil. Jesse's composure finally shattered completely. You're destroying everything. My business, my reputation, my entire life. All because you can't understand that people handle crisis differently. You didn't handle the crisis, Jesse. You abandoned it. You abandoned her. I gestured to Aura's sleeping form. And now you're experiencing the consequences of that choice. Security stepped forward as Jesse's voice continued rising. Marcus Webb placed a restraining hand on his client's arm. We'll be filing formal challenges to your authority, Webb stated. This isn't over. You're absolutely right, I agreed. It's not over. It's just beginning. Thursday morning brought Detective Jack Morrison with a folder thick enough to choke a horse. I'd hired him 3 days ago to document the scope of Jesse's collapse, needing professional verification of what my systematic pressure had accomplished. Your son-in-law's professional life is officially over, Morrison reported, settling into the visitor's chair opposite Aura's bed. Company terminated him yesterday. Tax investigation made him radioactive. No real estate firm in LA will touch him now. I continued holding my daughter's hand while he recited Jesse's destruction with bureaucratic precision. Her color had improved dramatically overnight. Dr. Chen mentioned consciousness could return any day now. The yacht sold at auction Tuesday morning, 40% below market value to cover marina fees and legal costs. His credit rating dropped below 400. No bank will approve him for a gas station credit card at this point. The engineering satisfaction was profound. System failure cascading through multiple interconnected components, exactly as designed. Jesse's lifestyle had been an elaborate house of cards built entirely on my daughter's inheritance. Remove the foundation, Watch everything collapse. What about his social circle? Morrison consulted his notes. Instagram following dropped from 2,000 to 300. Former friends avoiding his calls. Restaurant where he hosted weekly business dinners banned him for unpaid tabs. Marina where he kept the yacht blacklisted him industry-wide for payment defaults. Perfect isolation. Jesse had never cultivated genuine relationships, only transactional connections based on financial generosity. Without money to spend on others, he'd discovered how shallow those bonds really were. My phone buzzed with an unknown number, probably Jesse using borrowed phones to bypass my blocks. I let it ring through to voicemail. Morrison gathered his papers. Complete social and financial annihilation accomplished in less than a week. Textbook systematic destruction. Your engineering background really shows in the execution. After he left, I checked the voicemail. Not Jesse's voice, but an older woman speaking in heavily accented English. Mr. Marshall, this is Mamie Ortiz, Jesse's mother. Please, we need to speak with you about our son. We're coming to the hospital this afternoon. The in-laws. I'd been expecting this intervention since yesterday's legal confrontation collapsed. Parents desperate to salvage their adult child from consequences of his own actions. Ray and Mamie had been decent people during family gatherings, but they'd raised a son who abandoned his wife during her darkest hour. They arrived at 3 p.m., both looking like they'd aged years in the past week. Mamie clutched a rosary while Ray twisted his baseball cap nervously. Hospital security escorted them to the ICU waiting area, where I agreed to meet them. Mr. Marshall, thank you for seeing us, Ray began. We know you're angry with Jesse, but he's our son. What you've done to him, it's destroying our whole family. Your son destroyed his family first, I replied calmly. He abandoned my daughter when she needed him most. Everything that's happened since is consequence, not punishment. Mamie leaned forward desperately. Jesse made mistakes, yes, but he's not evil. He's scared, confused. He never learned how to handle crisis properly. But losing everything, his job, his reputation, his future, that's too much. My daughter lost her husband's support when she was fighting for her life. That was too much. Jesse's current situation is exactly proportional to his abandonment of his wife. Please, Ray tried again. We'll make sure he does better. We'll supervise him, help him understand what marriage means. Just give him a chance to earn forgiveness. I studied these elderly parents, desperate to protect their adult child from the natural consequences of betraying family loyalty. They meant well, but they'd spent 45 years enabling Jesse's selfishness. Jesse had 5 years to learn what marriage means. He had a week to choose his wife's bedside over yacht parties. He failed both tests completely. I won't give him opportunities to fail my daughter again. Mamie started crying quietly. Ray put his arm around her shoulders, but his eyes never left my face. What can we do? There must be something, some way to fix this. Nothing? Jesse made his choices. Now he lives with the results. That's how consequences work. They left 20 minutes later, defeated and bewildered. I returned to Aura's bedside, settling back into the familiar chair. Her breathing had become even stronger. The monitors showed increasing brain activity. Soon, she'd wake up and learn exactly who had protected her during her darkest hours. Friday morning, March 22nd, 8:30 a.m. I was reading the business section when Aura's fingers moved against my palm. Daddy? Her voice came out as barely a whisper, but it hit me like a lightning bolt. I leaned forward, heart hammering, and squeezed her hand gently. I'm here, sweetheart. I'm right here. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then gradually finding my face. Confusion clouded her features as she tried to process the hospital room, the machines, the week of lost time. What happened? How long have I been? Her voice cracked from disuse. 7 days. You had a lupus flare that put you in intensive care, but you're getting better now. The doctors say you're going to be fine. I pressed the call button for the nurses while maintaining eye contact with my daughter. Nancy appeared within seconds, professional excitement barely contained. Well, hello there, Sleeping Beauty. Let me get Dr. Chen immediately. Aura's eyes tracked around the room slowly, taking inventory. 7 days? I don't remember. The last thing I remember was feeling tired Sunday morning, and then your body needed time to heal, but I've been here the whole time, every day, every night. You were never alone. Her forehead creased slightly. Where's Jesse? Is he? The question I'd been dreading. How to explain her husband's abandonment without sending her into medical crisis during early recovery. Jesse's been handling other things, business matters. You know how he gets stressed with medical situations? It wasn't technically a lie, just incomplete truth. Jesse had indeed been handling other things, yacht parties, social media posts, everything except his wife's medical emergency. Dr. Chen arrived with his usual professional energy. Excellent! This is exactly what we wanted to see. Aura, I'm Dr. Chen. Do you remember me? She shook her head weakly. That's normal. You've been unconscious for a week while we treated your lupus flare. Your father here hasn't left your side except for brief necessities. Most dedicated family member I've ever seen. Aura's eyes returned to my face, studying me with growing awareness. You flew out from Florida? The moment I learned you were sick. Which reminds me, why didn't you tell me about the lupus diagnosis? 2 years, Aura. You managed this alone for 2 years. Her expression grew guilty. I didn't want you to worry. You just settled into retirement. I thought Jesse and I could handle it together. Jesse and I? Past tense. She was already unconsciously acknowledging that partnership had failed. Well, no more handling things alone. From now on, we're a team again. Father and daughter against whatever comes next. Dr. Chen completed his examination with obvious satisfaction. Neurological function looks excellent. We'll keep you for observation today, but if progress continues, you could transfer to general ward tomorrow. Full recovery expected within weeks. After he left, Aura studied my face more carefully. You look exhausted, Daddy. Have you been sleeping here? Hospital chairs aren't designed for 70-year-old backs, but I wasn't leaving you alone. Where did you say Jesse was? The question again, more insistent this time. Her memory was sharpening as consciousness fully returned. He's been dealing with work pressures. You know how he handles stress. She was quiet for several minutes, processing information her healing brain was gradually organizing. Daddy, something's wrong. I can see it in your face. What aren't you telling me? The moment of truth was approaching faster than I'd hoped, but first she needed more time to strengthen physically before handling emotional trauma. Rest now, sweetheart. We'll talk about everything when you're stronger. Right now, just focus on getting well. But I could see in her eyes that she was already beginning to understand something fundamental had changed during her week of unconsciousness. Monday morning, March 25th. Aura's transfer to the general ward marked the beginning of a new chapter for both of us. The room had windows that actually opened, chairs designed for human comfort, and the steady hum of recovery instead of life support. Okay, Daddy, she said, sitting up in bed with color returned to her cheeks. I'm strong enough now. Tell me everything. I'd spent the weekend preparing for this conversation, knowing it would determine our family's future. The truth had to be told carefully, but completely. Jesse never came to the hospital, Aura. Not once during your 7 days in intensive care. Her expression didn't change immediately. The words needed time to sink in. What do you mean, never? I mean, he was posting photos from yacht parties while you were unconscious. I mean, the nursing staff had never seen him. I mean, when I called him, he was at Marina del Rey buying champagne for strangers instead of sitting beside your bed. The color drained from her face, but she didn't look away. Show me. I pulled up Jessie's Instagram posts from the week of her crisis. Yacht parties, restaurant dinners, gym selfies, all time-stamped during her fight for consciousness. She scrolled through them silently, her expression hardening with each image. He posted these while I was in intensive care? Every day, multiple posts showing how much fun he was having while you were connected to life support. She set the phone aside and stared out the window. I need to ask you something, and I need a completely honest answer. Always. What did you do about it? Smart daughter. She'd inherited her father's analytical mind along with her mother's artistic soul. She could see beyond my presence at her bedside to the systematic justice I'd delivered. I used my power of attorney to freeze his access to your trust fund. All of it. Jesse's been living off your inheritance for 5 years, while contributing almost nothing to your actual household expenses. And I provided evidence to the IRS about his creative tax deductions. Yacht parties aren't legitimate business expenses, regardless of what he claimed on returns. She nodded slowly. What else? He lost his job. His real estate license got suspended. His yacht got sold at auction to cover debts. His friends abandoned him when the money stopped flowing. He's currently broke, unemployed, and socially isolated. The silence stretched for several minutes while she processed the complete destruction of her husband's life. How do you feel about all this, Daddy? Satisfied? He abandoned my daughter when she needed him most. He got exactly what he deserved. And how do I feel about it? I studied her face carefully. You tell me. She was quiet for another long moment, then looked directly at me with clear, determined eyes. I feel grateful. Grateful that my father protected me when my husband wouldn't. Grateful that someone finally held Jesse accountable for treating our marriage like a financial arrangement instead of a partnership. Relief flooded through me. So what happens now? Now I file for divorce. Now I rebuild my life without someone who sees me as a trust fund instead of a wife. Now I move back to Florida and spend time with the parent who actually loves me. She reached for my hand. Thank you, Daddy, for everything, for staying beside my bed when he wouldn't, for protecting our family's money from someone who didn't deserve it, for showing me exactly who Jesse really is when the situation gets difficult. I should have seen it sooner. No, I should have seen it sooner. But you gave me the chance to see it clearly now, when I still have time to build something better. Dr. Chen appeared for afternoon rounds. Discharge papers will be ready tomorrow morning. Full recovery expected within a month of outpatient care. After he left, Aura looked at me with Margaret's determination in her eyes. I want to go home, Daddy. Real home, Florida home. Will you help me start over? Sweetheart, I'll help you with anything you need. That's what fathers do. Outside her window, Los Angeles sparkled in the afternoon sun. Somewhere out there, Jesse was dealing with the consequences of abandoning his wife during her darkest hour. But here in this room, my daughter was planning a future built on family loyalty instead of financial convenience. The engineering project was complete. Justice had been systematically delivered. My daughter was safe, protected, and ready to rebuild her life with people who actually deserved her love. Mission accomplished. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.